All right, hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we are continuing our series looking at commercials that I have shot in the recent or not too recent past, and we're going to go through the entire process. So we're going to start with the storyboards, we're going to go into the location scout, we're going to talk about the rehearsal, and basically we're going to go over all the steps that you have to go through in order to get to the final product. And because for the most part on the Wandering DP podcast for the last 10 years, I've been focusing only on the last little bit, I think I've given a false impression as to what is required to make something halfway decent, or at least to think you're making something halfway decent, which is exactly what we're trying to do with each and every job. Okay, before we get into it, if you like this kind of content and you want to see more behind the scenes, you want to see more what is required of a cinematographer, especially in the commercial space, link in the description below to the Patreon group. It is really the heart of the channel, and where you can talk to other cinematographers or people that are in your position who are trying to climb the ranks and get better at their job. That's where you can do it. And that's the reason I'm able to do any of these videos in the first place. If you are a supporter, a big thank you to you, and let's go. Okay, so we're going to jump in. The very first thing that we see right here, this is the boards that you get before you actually go or hear anything really about the job itself. We've got the boards, and this is from the same series that we've been looking at in the past, which is we're doing 3 commercials a day, which means we have to move incredibly quickly, which means we need one setup for lighting for the entire piece that is going to work, and we have to make it work for that one piece because we don't have enough time to switch anything around. So the most important thing then becomes the blocking relative to the light source, right? Because the light source and the blocking to the light source is going to create all of our mood. We don't have time to impose mood on each and every frame. We have time to impose mood on the wide and then shape as we go, right? Shape from the ground. That's all that we can do. So this particular spot out of the 3 during the day, this is going to be the final shot of the day, which means we changed to this exterior morning, right? The very first thing that we changed was, well, that doesn't really work for the location because again, we're not looking location specific for this job because we have 6 ads to shoot at this location. So it's like some ads it's really good for, some ads it's not really good for, and this for a morning orientation doesn't work. Okay, so we've got guy number 1, we've got a guy, he's getting ready to go on his dirt bike there. Then we've got the dad over here, that's 2 characters, both getting ready to ride their bikes. Then if we come over here to the wide, let's just zoom in a little bit here. Can we zoom in? Yes, we can. So this is the wide shot here, and notice, what do we have? A third person. Okay, so we got 3 people in a giant wide shot. 3 people, giant wide shot, day exterior. This is not a montage ad, which means we're going to have to make it seem like, as we do these 11 shots, we're going to have to make it seem like it's all happening at the same time. This is very important to remember because montage ad, we could be shooting these any time of the day. It doesn't have to match, doesn't have to do any of those things. Day exterior, where it has to happen in order and in the same real time that it's happening in the commercial, significantly more difficult, significantly more challenging. We're going to have to do a lot of the things that we wouldn't have to do on a montage ad when we are looking at the location scouting and the tech scouting process for something like this. So again, dad and boy getting ready to go on a bike ride. There they are again in a 2-shot. We've got our daughter here that is reading or watering. Boys get ready. The girl realizes that these 2 are not going to come back. There's going to be a horrible crash. And she starts to let the waterworks fly. Okay, and that's her last close-up shot. And then we go to this wide, right? This big wide. What does this tell you, right? Just by looking at the boards. This looks elevated, right? It looks like a giant crane shot. You know what cranes take? Time or money, but mostly time. Time and the room to put the crane in. So already we're thinking, just looking at the boards, day exterior has to happen all in order and all at the same time. We've got 3 different characters. How many different directions do we have to look? Let's come back up here because we know that anytime we add a variable of direction, that's going to add time. Why? Because we have to account for the mood. If we only have to look one direction, it gets really, really easy for creating mood. We just have to think about one area of the scene. If we come here, actually, let's just draw it so it makes it a little bit easier. Take this, oops. Let's take this, highlight it, move it out of the way for just a second. Now let's take our setup. We've got house over here. We've got garage over here. We've got our 2 characters and our lady over here. Imagine if we only had to look this direction. all we have to think about is this sort of 90 degrees, okay? But because we have to look this way and we have to look back this way on these two characters, that's going to be a problem. Why? Because now, instead of looking just 90 degrees, now we have to look 180 degrees. 180 degrees, harder than 90 degrees. Bigger the number, the more challenging it gets. And it's not like it's challenging in the physical sense. Well, it is for the crew because they have to move more things around. It's challenging that you have to keep track of all of these things because we're going to have to move these things in. What's the best time to move them? And what's the best order to move them in? Is there some way that we can become more efficient? And more efficient really means, is there ways that we can get more time for the directors and the talent to be able to get into this scene and make it look halfway decent and still match, right? That's really what we are up against, because we can just get in here and hose this thing down without it looking good, which is an option. Like sometimes you'll just have a job where we're going to try our best to make it look great, but we don't have enough time to sculpt it or shape it. Would you rather get it in the can, or would you rather have, instead of getting 11 shots, would you rather get 4 shots but make them look nice? It's like, that's the conversation you have early on. I will tell you the answer to that conversation 9 times out of 10 is, no, we have to get the whole ad. Like we promised, the whole ad. It's like, well, you don't have enough time to make it look great. Okay, well, don't make it look great. Let's get all 11 shots. Okay? Something else to think about here, which you have seen if you have seen these videos in the past, we're shooting 2 cameras, both Alexa Mini LFs, both with the Cooke anamorphics, the full frame anamorphics, my second favorite lenses now. I discovered new lenses that I like even more than the Cookes, but we're not going to talk about that today. Okay, so that's our setup. In terms of what do we think about first? Well, first thing I do is I come down to this wide here and I say, okay, what is the orientation to the talent themselves? How are they oriented? Which means, are we ever seeing them on screen together? And are they ever looking at each other? And are they ever talking to each other? If yes, what is the orientation when they're talking to each other? Is it the bar scene, which is, oops, that's a big pen. How do we get rid of that? The bar scene, which is 2 people facing the same direction, right? And the camera over here looking this way at them. That's the bar scene, right? Because they're seated like they are at a bar. Or is it an office scene where they're facing each other, right? If they're facing each other, this is the much more common scene. And we know, as soon as I'm able to identify that in the blocking, I know exactly how we can light it. There's only so many different ways you can do these things, right? It's not an infinite number of ways. In fact, there's only 2 ways for each of those scenes. So let's see. We have guy, we have dad, and we have girl. Now it looks like we're seeing dad, boy and dad looking the same direction, and they're looking back at girl. Okay, so we've got, come over here, we've got dad, boy, girl. They're looking this way at each other. This is the office scene. Straight up, where do we want to be if we're shooting an office scene? Do we want to be on the shadow side, or do we want to be on the side that the light is coming from? I'll wait. You guessed it. Yes, good job. We want to be on the shadow side, okay? If these are the 2, and here she is, and they're both looking this way and that way, we want to be over here, and we want the light coming from this direction, right? Because this is the line. Let's just bring it over a little bit so you can see a little bit better. Okay? Dad, boy, daughter, line through the scene. This is the shadow side. Anywhere along here will look nice. Anywhere over here we can bring the light from, and it will look nice. Now we have discovered where we're going to bring the light from. Now, that's just half the battle, right? Because we've identified where we would like to be. That doesn't mean you're always going to be there. Why? Because the location might hose you, okay? You might not be able to get in that spot. And I will tell you, just by looking at this, the next thing you have to do is say, is that feasible? Can I actually do that? And the answer, again, won't always be yes. Why? Let's go back over to this wide shot. Why might that be? Okay? Look at this wide shot. We're looking back at the house. Now, do we want the thing front lit? Right? Do we want all of this light coming this way? After I just said that the wide determines the side of the line that we're going to be on, and we want to be on the shadow side. So that means, no, we don't want the light blasting into this thing. We want the light coming from over here, down. Over here, down. And already I'm thinking schedule, I'm thinking day exterior. I don't like the sun in the frame. Okay, you can put the sun in the frame. I don't like it. And because I'm the cinematographer on the commercial, I'm going to say, let's schedule it so that the sun is out of the frame. So if we know we want it backlit and we know we want the sun out of the frame, that limits our options for where we can bring the level from and what down here is going to look like, because we're going to light it with the sun. Okay, this is so wide, we're not going to be able to bring in our own lights, and that dictates the mood for every other shot. All right, we're going off the biggest shot, the one that we cannot control the most, and then everything else has to match it, sort of. Okay, not really going to match it, but sort of. So either the sun has to be up here, shining down, or it has to be over here, shining this way. Either way, what's going to happen is you're going to have shadow from the building. Right, you've got building here. If we want that backlit, which means we don't want the sun in the roof here, we're going to have shadow coming this way. This is going to be in a pool of shadow. Pool of shadow equals flat, equals dark, equals down. How are we going to get light in? I'll tell you what we're not going to do. We're definitely not going to, because this is the natural reaction, would be, oh, okay, actually, let's come out to the actual location. Now that we've seen this, let's come here to the actual location so you can see what might be the issue. We'll come here, facing west. I'll already tell you that if we talk about the schedule, that we need to schedule this in the afternoon. We need to schedule this in the afternoon. Why? Because this is west facing, and in the morning, that means that the sun over here is going to be blasting this way. Okay, so I think, do we have an east facing shot? We do, up here. Let's come up here, zoom in here, east. So this is east. See, we can't shoot in the morning because morning backlit to the east, there's no building. That's a bummer. Okay, that's why we had to change it from day exterior morning to day exterior afternoon. They're going for an afternoon ride. Now, the other thing that you could do is like, okay, well, why don't we shoot it at dusk or dawn, right? Anytime you ask any director or any cinematographer, they're going to say, if we have to do a day exterior, let's do it at dusk or dawn. That's not a bad idea, except we have 12 shots to get through and 4 different major setups that we have to get through. That's not going to be possible in a day. Even with 2 cameras, it's not going to be possible. We would have to be moving at lightning speed. And even though we've done rehearsals, even though everybody knows where they're going to be on the day, it's still going to be way too fast to be able to do it that time. So we have to have the sun in the sky. We're not looking east. We have decided, hey ho, let's shoot in the afternoon, and let's shoot when the sun is over here, blasting this way. So what's going to happen is, see this structure here, right? This structure here, this is all going to be shaded, this entire ground area, which is where they're going to be standing. If they're standing here, this is going to be trouble for us. Why? Because it's going to be flat and gross. And what we're not going to do, absolutely not going to do, is stock standard answer for, oh, it's really shady here and the sun is back here. Why don't we take the sun that is coming this way and we just put a big 20 by 12 bounce, ultra bounce over here, and we just smush in light. Okay, so you've got light coming from the back and light coming from the front. They call that the sun sandwich, and I won't do it, right? Levels be damned. I would rather have them so underexposed here that you cannot actually see them than do a sun sandwich. That's just my style. I don't like it. Maybe you do. Maybe you love the sun sandwich. A lot of people have made very long careers out of the sun sandwich. I am not one of those people. Okay, we're just going to come over here for a second and talk about the orientation again. So this is a overhead of the location. Why did we make it in the afternoon? I just read it out loud, right? This is 7 a.m. This is 5 p.m. We need it backlit. So we can pretty much start shooting from, let's say, 2 o'clock here, right? 2, 3, 4, and then 5 down here, which means sun is going to be coming this way. Camera is going to be positioned here. We're going to be looking into this area, right? This is our hero area. Okay? That's it. I think we're pretty good there. For location, we know the story. Now let's get into, we go out there for the tech scout. You've got your whole team with you. We've got Artemis. We're just going to line everybody up. We're going to line up the actual talent because we're here on a rehearsal day. And we're going to go through what the shots themselves are actually going to look like. Now, this is not a schedule for, this is the orientation. Like these are the, we're going to do shot 3 first, then shot 1. That's not true, right? That's not true for a very big reason, which you should already see, right? You should already see the problem with doing this shot first. If you don't, you're going to need the next video, but let's go through it. I managed to get, okay, we get the wide shot, pretty much looking exactly like the boards, right? Not too dissimilar. There's no sort of dingle or stuff in front of the camera, but we can do that on the day. We're looking in there, and already you see, even with the iPhone still, you see the major problem is that our lady is going to be on the deck there. She's going to be watering a plant, and these guys are going to be in full sun. Now that's a huge bummer, right? Because we got two very large discrepancies between shade and sunlight. Also, it's Australia. It's in the middle of summer. It's going to be very toppy. It's not going to be flattering light, right? This is not, we're not in some Scandinavian country which just has beautiful daylight all day long. That's not the case. It's really, really toppy. We've got our angle on the boy at the start, right? The boy, he's a man. The sun at the start, which is looking in there. So back at this direction. So that's still pretty much one direction. Then we have the two shot down here. Let's come here. Okay, we've got the two shot looking the same direction. Shot two really it's for her over here. It's not for him. You can cancel him out of there. But two shot looking this way. This is the big problem one, right? The flop. Now we're looking the exact opposite direction because these two are having a conversation with her. This is the bummer shot. Looking completely different direction. Then we're back under here for our close-up. And then for the getaway shot, we've changed away from the crane because we realized it's going to take too much time. We don't have any of the equipment. We're not going to use it for any other shot, so it doesn't make any sense financially to bring it in. We can use that money. That money's better spent elsewhere. And this is kind of a nice shot because you've got lots of layers here for the cars. The bikes are going to drive through, sorry. And we're going to place her face there. So you get some nice layers. Again, that's an easy location scout solve or an easy tech scout solve. The challenging bit when we're on the tech scout is what are we going to do for this shot, shot 4, and underneath, right? Because underneath, remember, if we're going to be in shade, right? Imagine that the sun is back here and it's coming this way. She's in shade because she's on the deck. Are we going to bring the level from over here and sandwich her? Or are we going to bring the level from over here, which makes 0 sense, and light her up so she's got some shape on her? It's going to be tricky, right? It's going to be real tricky. And the answer is going to come in the next video because I don't have time to do another video right now. That's it. You've seen what? We've seen the location scout. We've gone over the boards. We know where we're going to light from. At least we think we know where we're going to light from. It's not going to be easy to do that because of the reasons I just laid out. In the next video, I'm going to go through and we're going to look at the final images and we're going to see how we actually tackled the problem, how we did the schedule in terms of the shots, which ones we started with, the solution that we used for shooting the opposite direction in the sun in the middle of the day. That's something that you will use all of the time, right? Spoiler alert, it's a giant overhead. But overheads look bad. Yes, they do, unless you know what you're doing. And even if you do, still doesn't look that great. Okay, that's going to be in the next video. Many thanks. We'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.